Welcome to another session of On Track Parenting. My name is Mike Brook and I'm the college pastor at Saddleback Church and a parent of 2 daughters. I'm so glad to take a few moments and talk about what could be one of the scarier but more rewarding phases as a parent, which is the transition from high school to college and emerging adulthood. If you are new to parenting a young adult, you're going to find that this is one of the best times of your lives. Your son or daughter is probably already beginning to make decisions on their own. They are finding their independence, and because of your guidance and support, they're mostly ready for it. This phase of parenting can be both exciting and hopeful as you watch your son or daughter make decisions that will set the trajectory of their future. In case this happens to be your first on-track parenting session you are participating in, let me remind you of what we're defined as the ultimate purpose of parenting. The purpose of parenting is to raise children to be interdependent, lifelong followers of Jesus who desire to make a kingdom contribution. So how do you do that with young adults? Well, it starts with understanding, appreciating, and adjusting to the phase of life that your young adult is in. It can sometimes be intimidating or discouraging to think about parenting an adult who is trying to assert their independence. But the Bible says in Joshua 1:9, "Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." You are not parenting your child alone. God is with you and wants to guide you and give you wisdom as you love on and parent your young adult. So let's take a moment and look at the phase that your son or daughter is in. Psychologist Jeffrey Arnett argues that there are 5 main features of emerging adulthood that influence their outlook, emotions, and decisions. Identity exploration, which is they are trying to find various life options with new freedom to move beyond previous traditions and habits. They are in the process of figuring out who they are apart from their friends and family. Instability. They are revising and reshaping their patterns of love, work, and home. Everything around them is changing from school to friends and work to even how they relate to their family. Self-focus. They are emphasizing their own needs and obligation as they seek to be self-sufficient and stand on their own 2 feet. In between. They are feeling perpetually in transition as neither adolescent nor adult. Culturally, they're considered an adult, but very few have many of the markers of an adult, such as a career, marriage, or a home of their own. Possibilities. They are sensing unparalleled opportunity to transform their lives. This can lead to tremendous hope or anxiety for what lies ahead of them. Many students feel the pressure to know what they are going to do, have things lined up, or feel crippled by the choices that they have ahead of them. While we typically think of them as adults, their brains still aren't finished developing. Even though your older child is finding their way towards making better judgments, gaining more wisdom, and constructing their own worldview, the part of the brain that allows them to take risks or try new things is still a little ahead of the game. This is why leaving on a road trip with friends at 2 a.m. feels like a great idea. Buying concert tickets, even though the checking account is empty, doesn't feel so crazy. Quitting a job with no prospects of another one makes complete sense. Their brains aren't quite done developing. So while it seems like they would start functioning like an adult, their brains don't let them. While they are starting to change though, your role begins to change. You no longer need to be the coach that is making game time decisions. Your role gets to be a little different, and it can be a lot of fun. This next phase of life can seem scary for a parent. It's totally normal to wonder how your relationship will change and to see them push for more independence and feel left out. But did you know 9 in 10 young adults report high levels of closeness with their parents and are happy with their relationship? 80% of life's most defining moments happen by the age of 35. Our personalities change more in our 20s than any other time. So if our role isn't coaching during this phase, let's take a look at what it should be. At this point, your role truly becomes limited, and it's supposed to. You're moved from being a coach on the sidelines to being a consultant, ready to help when asked. Recognize that you can play an exciting role in helping your child find identity beyond image, belonging beyond a peer group, and purpose beyond a profession. One of the things that my parents did right when I was transitioning to college was they stepped out of the driver's seat of my life and became a GPS. What I mean by this is they stopped necessarily making decisions for me and began giving me directions when I sought it. College is a tricky stage of life because you as parents are figuring out what it means to have a child who's now technically an adult, and for your student because they're trying to figure out what it means to be an adult. It's tough having a friendship with you as a fellow adult while still honoring you as their parent. Students will either be eager for your advice or have to figure out that they don't know everything to eventually realize they need your advice. One thing my parents did really well was they let me figure out that I didn't know everything. And when I eventually did turn to them for advice, it was a really sweet moment for us. There wasn't the "I told you so" or "I knew you'd need me." It was always met with an attitude of love and respect. They stopped telling me how to live and started helping me navigate how I wanted to live my life and what I wanted to be known for. They became consultants. So let's look at what we need to do to actually become the consultant that our kids need. Number one, make yourself available. Say yes to invitations to participate in stuff that's important to them. The asks are going to start coming less, so take advantage of the time they do want to spend with you. You won't always be able to change your schedule to accommodate the last-minute asks, but do your best to offer your time. Time is one of the biggest ways to convey your love to your child. It's the only resource that we have that is truly limited, so sharing that resource as often as they allow is a great way to show how much you really care for them. Again, the asks are going to increasingly come few and far between. Soak up every moment you can with them. Number two, provide on-call input. Input mostly limited to what they invite, not what you want to give. One of the other things my parents did well was that my parents let me fall, but they made sure I fell forward. Leadership guru John Maxwell said, if you're not failing, you're probably not really moving forward. He also goes on to encourage people to fail early, fail often, but always fail forward. We're going to make mistakes in life. As imperfect human beings, we will fail. So the question is not whether we will or won't fail. The question is, what are we going to do when we do fail? From trying to figure out the FAFSA, if you haven't already worked through this with your student, good luck, to learning how to talk to the insurance agents when I put in an accident claim, to navigating friendships, to being close to having to retake a class, well, several classes. The question my parents asked wasn't, how did this happen? But was, what have you learned from this and how are you going to grow from this? Everyone at one point or another is going to fail. It's not a reflection of your parenting. The truth is, some of the greatest fails have come from students who were raised in awesome households. Your child will fail, but I want to encourage you, when your student does fail, view failure as an opportunity to ask the same questions my parents asked me. What have you learned, and how are you going to grow from it? Some check out as soon as their child graduates high school, believing that their parenting is done. They assume they have no more influence in their child's life. Some hold on to and are unable to really let go, either out of fear for their child or out of fear for themselves. Neither approach is helpful. When you parent out of fear, it can mask your good intentions. Listen more than you advise. Journey with them more than you plan for them. Choose trust over suspicion. Believe the best about them and say good things about them even when they mess up. Love takes the role of a cheerleader, not an evaluator. He or she needs someone to tell them not what to do, but who they are. Number three, share your resources. This doesn't mean you continuously foot the bill for everything, but you do have stuff they need. For example, you have experience, skills, wisdom, money, a decent running car to loan. One of the best resources that you have is yourself, your wisdom, knowledge, and love. So here are some tips on how to share yourself with your young adult. Number one, know yourself. Be confident in who you are and be willing to share you, good and bad. Be comfortable in your own skin and willing to share how God has used the good and the bad to shape who you are currently. Number two, ask questions. Force them to think about their answers and ask questions they can't answer. It allows you to see how they view themselves and others. Facilitate discussion more than you just teach them. Developmentally, college students are ready for the why questions, whereas high school students are more led by the who, what, when, and where questions. Number three, be confident in truth and pray for them. They are searching for truth and in the process struggling to see how faith fits in with knowable truth. It is important for you to be grounded in truth, or you can get caught up in their web of searching. Number 4, remember how you felt. Remember how you stressed at finals, how you were nervous about a career and finding the right person, and remember the pressure you felt to have everything in place, career, marriage, kids, etc., by 25. Remember that lectures didn't fix it, but processing and having a guide to help you find the next step did. Number 5, love them. This cannot be overstated, but love is very powerful in the lives of students. Be willing to meet them where they are at and show genuine care for who they are. They want to feel loved and appreciated. So let's look at the spiritual goal that we have for our young adult. The spiritual goal for young adults is to reproduce their faith. In the last phase as high school, you were the coach. The spiritual goal we gave you was to help them activate their faith in their everyday lives. But in this season, you're going to help them reproduce their faith. This means not only owning their faith and living it out, but helping bring others along with them. One of the most interesting stats that I've come across came from a recent study that said 80% of college students are interested in spiritual conversations. Your goal is to help them be comfortable in talking about their faith, discipling others, including their future families. If that seems overwhelming, I get it, but you can do this, and you don't have to do this alone. One of the most important things your college student will need is a home team. Executive Director of the Fuller Youth Institute, Kara Powell, has something she calls the 5-to-1 ratio when it comes to how churches encourage lead and student relationships. While most are quick to think that this ratio speaks that there should be no more than 5 students for every 1 adult, she's actually pushing churches to encourage parents that for every 1 student, there should be 5 adults pouring into him or her. Whether your student is going away to college or staying local, it's important. I would almost go so far as to say it's vital that they find some sort of community of not just their peers, but of people older and wiser than them who can partner with them as a leader in their life, helping them navigate life. Wherever your student ends up, encourage them to get plugged into a church. Across the board, I have seen that student faith success and church involvement leaving high school is closely correlated. We can't overstate how important it is for your student to have other caring adults in their lives who will give them godly advice. So don't feel like you have to do it all yourself. Well, I hope that through this, you feel you are ready to tackle this role as a parent. And here's what I know. God has equipped you for this season. If you're feeling ill-equipped or nervous, go to God who wants to give you that. In fact, the book of Philippians, it says in Philippians 4:6-7, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. We love you. We believe in you, and we're here to support you and your son or daughter. Be sure to download the reflection questions to think through on your own with your spouse or partner or with your small group.